Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the continuation of my discussion about personal administration. So for today's discussion, I would like to present everybody about management, if it is a science or an art. Okay, let us discover. Let me show you and share to you my presentation. So there you can see the title, Nature of Personal Administration as a Science and Art. So of course, everybody might be asking, no, if ang kaning gitawag na personal administration, which is the very one of the very core nga mga functions is kaning management na niya. Kung mapangutana ano, ang kanang management, sir, is that a science or an art or both? So dili na to ma-answer ang kanang question. Okay, let me proceed with the next slide. There, as you can see, no, na ay picture diha no nga na bangag na yawi, no, magyawihan siya. This is to actually to open up the idea of everybody, no, kung unsa giday ni ang management. Now, management can be understood from various perspective, no, from various perspective, and there are a lot of ways to define management. So specific characteristics of management signify that management is a form of science, art, and profession in some cases. So nga naman, no, ato ana siyang tukion. In this page, we will be discussing all the 3 points of view to ascertain the exact meaning and understand in depth. So yeah, lang, after you understand all the perspectives, the conclusion answers the questions and allegiance of management to one of the 3 domains. So remember, we have the science, we have art, and we have profession. So let's proceed with the next slide. Now, management as an art. To understand management as an art form, we should first understand the meaning of art. Kung saan meaning art? No, we have to understand so that we can actually integrate the idea, which is art, to the management. So art is defined as the ability to use information and skills to get the desired results. Yeah, no, artists have the ability to come up with unique solutions and art forms for complicated problems. Now the question is, since that's the meaning of art, no, ang atong i-highlight, no, ang importante dia, information and skills. So, thus the information and skills can also be applied in management. And of course, yes, no, we can say yes, no, because without information, of course, you cannot be able uh, to come up with a very effective idea on what kind of management style that you're going to apply, no, as well as the skills. Because sometimes, though we know the fact, no, nga ang tao naambitin nagkada iya nga mga abilidad, but somehow at some point we should not always rely on a single way of management or a single style of management. Of course, it will be much kanibang matawag na to, no, nindot kaayo, no, mas nindot pa if you in yourself do not just limit the ways, because it actually, if you're going to ask me personally, since I experience also supervisory as part of the top management, one of the gitawag na to wing arm of the top management, of course, ako po sa ako ang style, sa ako ang experience before, makaingon po ko nga, you have to be very flexible. You have to actually complement with the type of organization nga imong gitrabahoan, the nature of job itself, no, nga para nga mas epektibo ang imong ways of management style. Now, with that, no, in terms of kind of problem solving, since we talk about unique solutions, so if you are going to apply a very tawag na to flexible way of management, of course, kita matagtag sa tagsa, no, kaning mga lain-lain nga mga tao na kita tagsa nga paagi on how to actually resolve problems, especially mga complicated problems. Okay, wala man tay standard nga buhaton na so long as you are in line with kanibang in line mo sa kini nga policy sa company. And of course, wala jud tay di ta mamiligro ana no. Inline sa policy sa company. And do not forget also nga ang kanang policy sa company dili siya ingon mugna sa company. It is also reflecting with, or it is also adhering no the policy or the law which is coming from the labor code. So the analogy stands upright in management as managers come up with unique and creative solutions to business challenges. So there are no predefined solutions to business problems, and using hundreds of ways to build new processes is a normal part of management, as I mentioned a while ago. Now, so from time to time, we can actually encounter different problems, and as a manager, of course, you have to overcome all of that. Yeah, how to overcome all of that? Of course, you have to equip yourself full knowledge. Now, you have to equip yourself. Kaning gitawag na to a very strong kaayong kaning kuan no kanibang dili strong na your street, but you must have that strong disposition no nga you're not easily you are the type of person, or as a manager of course you're not easily give up. As a manager of course you should not just stick on a single plan, which is a plan A. As much as possible, if you can actually apply plan A to Z, then go for it. No, that's very important. Next, to understand in depth, let's analyze critical factors that common management as an art. So we have here prior to theoretical knowledge. So every art form and artist uses predefined expertise and data to build up their ideas. So theories in public speaking, acting school basics for actors, knowledge of tones in music, etc. are all examples of theoretical knowledge, which is used in specific art forms. Similarly, in management, professionals are given workflows and blueprints to analyze, test, and execute business ideas. So di ano, sometimes to it's kaning matawag na tanong anang art sometimes that can also be instinctual no kay kana nga by means of survival, and that also kaning kang gitawag siya instinctual ka some it cannot be denied nga lain tag experience sa kinabuhi no, lain tag upbringing sa atong panimalay palanggaan, lain ta og kana nga like for example namon po ubang tao nga lain po ang ilang religion, so that could also affect on how they are going to exercise management. That's I if I were to say something about that one, it's an overall nga overall siyang influence. Now, coming from that overall influence, especially sa inyong mga nakatunan sa college, okay, kaning college na to, this is a preparatory man para sa ato magpanarbaho, diya po ta magkuha sa itong knowledge. So, gitawag siya prior theoretical knowledge, just like diri no kanang gitawag sa public speaking nga need to know skills no, it also needs or requires knowledge. So diri sa management po, though you have the guide no kay magdepende man sa usa ka organization, you have the guide already on how to resolve kanang mga problems which are considered normal na sa usa ka organization, but still of course you should not stop learning from only from that area. You have to anticipate, you have to overcome, so whatever will be possibilities may came out no, that's very important nya muna no nga part ko na siya sa atong pag execute on how uh, to plan and at the same time execute good solutions to a problem. Next, we have personalized approach. So every artist has its own view of building forms of art. For example, every musician has its own style. May lifestyle, every painter prefers a specific niche. Similarly, in management, every professional has its own way of approaching problems and suggesting solutions. No, so diha no ato sad na siya ma-integrate sa atong idea nga share kaganiya no dinha sa babaw nga from the word itself, personalized approach. Of course, nilain gitag style no, on how we resolve problems, on how we are going to deal with that kind of task. Okay, involves next we have involves a lot of creativity. Every art form is heavily dependent on creativity. So creative thinking produces beautiful art and is unique to the best artists. Similarly, in management, innovative solutions have given birth to amazing companies and benchmark management principles that are used worldwide. So, kaning ano, atong sabtano nga kaning art di ay of course it is dependent on each person, on each individual, no? Kaya naman kita involves a lot of creativity. So you have to be as much as possible what is a quality, since diri no gi kuan man no gi ipasabot man diri no unsa man ang unsa mura siya it is somewhat like answering the question unsa man nga paagi no na ang usa ka manager mulungtad og dugay. So of course you have to apply as much as possible. You have to think no nga mga approaches. You have to, as what I mentioned a while ago, you have to anticipate and overcome. That's very important. No? For you to be able to come up to a very flowery kayo nga mga ways nga as much as possible, you're not just relying on a single nga strategy, but pwede jud no from A to Z nga plan. Okay? That's very important. Now, management as an art, science, and profession. So there you can see no management as an art, prior theoretical knowledge, personalized approach, involves a lot of creativity. Now, management as a science, of course, there you can see systematic structure, universal validity, we have experiments, and management is a profession, formal education and systems, restricted entry, code of conduct, and associations. So let's move on to the next slide. So management as science. So let's start with the definition of science. So something science, no? May tawag ginato, it is a systematized body of knowledge. Na diri gingon science is an organized collection of knowledge that has an explanation on the basis of facts for every phenomenon. So there is a itawag na to no, mutawag ganita word nga organized collection, meaning to say there must be unsa man a logical way in solving problems, a logical way in acquiring answers now to a particular problem. Now, and that answers that are possibly to be acquired has to be coming from the one, kaning gitawag na to tinuod, coming from the facts. Of course, you're not going to say something nga oh mo ni siya, this is the answer. Like for example, mingon tanong nga ngano kaya nga ang asin matunaw magdali sa tubig nya compared sa gasolina. So what is the explanation about that one? So of course, in order for you to actually give a very concrete to give a very exact answer, of course, you have to conduct experiment. You have to follow the scientific method. Now, in Anna, no, since we are going to integrate science as management, usam siyang management, is this also a branch of science? Now, atong continue, no, the concepts and hypotheses of science are all defined with principles, and a similar thing is practiced in management. So o di no gi-practice po di ni no kaning gitawag na to if the science has its own defined principles o sa may mga prinsipyo diha no. So like for example, pareha atong prinsipyo sa tubig o gasolina, atong atua diha no, we can actually come up with the idea nga yes, because water is the universal solvent, and maybe the factor of kaning gasolina has something to do with its physical at the same time sa iyang chemical nga composition mo na siya nga nakapadugay nga mo pahili sa asin, no? So mo na ang asin mahilis gid siya sa tubig because it's considered the water is considered as the universal solvent nya, pure gid siya no. Ang ayang chemical composition is not that the same as the gasoline. So inana po no gi-apply na to prinsipyo. So ang management, of course, there are specific principles that are needed to be followed. Like for example, mingon ta no, mingon ta nga what about kaning mingon ta a call center business, no? Are they actually sharing the same principles with kaning gitawag na to production? So of course, they're not the same, no? Kanang mga production kanang manghimo og mga sinina, maghimo og kanang especially pareha nang nasa Mitsumi, sa MIPS. So they are different also from the BPO company. And of course, they also have in terms of principles and the rest, like for example, mga corporate values, they're not the same also. Na napos sila lain-lain. So like art, management also shares key factors with science, which can quickly help us term management as science. So na mo atong mga ilhana no for us to be able to easily identify that management is also or can also be integrated with science. So diya no, makita na to systematic structure. Na diya no, subjects of science like chemistry and physics have defined systematic principles and divisions. Each subsection has another set of principles that help you experiment with new things in a particular domain. Similarly, management has a systematic structure of divisions and principles. So every principle can be used as a reference while experimenting with new things. So there is a basic. Of course, it's very important to actually have a tamdanan or code, no? Tawag na ko code, no? In my own terminology, gitawag tag natay tamdanan, no? Sa usa ka organization, of course, there is already no kanang mga corporate values. We have the mission, vision, goals. Mao ni gipasabot ani class, no? Kaning goals na to, mission, the mission, the vision, and the goals is more na siya basic. But ang kanang atong mission, vision, goals, we should not just stick dira lang no nga we are going to limit no our ways on how we can actually um do something or perform something sa atong duty. But at some point, of course, it would be much safer no sa usa ka organization to actually be open-minded no nga to learn new things, to apply new systems of management kay ato bitong gilantaw dito no ang nature sa personal administration samtang nagkadugay we are also developing, and that development is very complex no, could be a technology, could be the human factors. So yeah no, dapat kita po no as kaning management na to as a science. Of course, it's very important also to uh prepare. And what is the kind of preparation? Of course, you have to prepare also the mga possibilities that you might actually encounter. That is to ensure no the sustainability, and at the same time to ensure that the company would actually exist no, mulungtad siya og dugay. If you are not just if you are not going to learn new things no through experimenting, nasa the experiment there's organization sir, yes no, ay mga experiment like for example mingon ka nga unsa kay ano kung pananglitan ang kaning mga trabahante namo tagaan namo og tag 5 ka kilong bugas every week. Let me try this one, maybe this could help no nga para mas ma-motivated ang mga tao kay karon ra ba mahal king gasolina. O imong applyan no og experiment, that's the very nature. And then of course tuod man diha nakita nimo tinuod jud na gid something nga kausaban no sa ilang performance. So that's part of it no. We have universal validity. The concept and basic principles of management have universal validity. So gitawag siya universal validity no. For example, the principle used in finance management are similar in every company, and the rules are valid universally. So these sets of principles do not change with situations and applications. Now, pareha diri no, sa example kaning finance management, na po sila kaning finance management na sila principles no na that is universal, that are actually being applied by different organizations. It doesn't matter what is the nature of an organization, what is the nature of that particular business. Doesn't really matter, but they have that principle nga kanang mga finance management. For example, how they are going to manage the money. So na gina sila no katong mga estudyante og mga finance, katong mga estudyante og business administration and accounting na gina sila yung mga principles nga gi-follow, which is inline sa ilang kurso no kaning pagkuha na to sa tax, pag-compute og tax, pag-compute also with the company's assets. So diha no that's already being set up. Dili, that can never be changed by anyone else no, except kung muryo-muryo ka nga kumpanya. Kung muryo-muryo ka nga kumpanya, like for example you have 20 manpower, that's already beyond. And then according to the law, of course dapat ginasiya no nga imuha nga provided sa ilang compensation benefits and at the same time sa ilang salary or wages. But of course, sa atong ikaingon, that would also depend from case to case basis. That will also depend on the nature of the organization. Kung unsay klase nga negosyo, di ba? Kung pananglitan ang negosyo anak bulad. So of course, kundi galingan sa mga money or galingan sa mga humay. So of course mura po siya og kana nga magpindi siya sa income, no? And then principle sa mga human resource management, principle sa mga psychology, of course there are specific sets of kaning gitawag nato og principles, no, that are needed to be followed. Kami nga mga psychology graduate naman may tamdanan, no, nami tamdanan that is coming from the learnings that we have, the learnings that we acquired during our education sa among college, na napon may amuang kaugalingon training. And so as the other professionals like you class, no, nga like for example right after you graduated, if you are kanino ang inyong major is unsay tawag kanay garments, of course na po mga principles na inyong nga ma-apply within sa inyong learnings about sa kaning dressmaking, about sa mga works that are actually relating to garments. And pareha po no sa automotive. Pareha ra gyud no sa other professionals also. Natay gi-follow, no natay gisuno nga principles which is dili na siya ato gina siyang mao gina siya no. For suppose we cannot change about that one. That we cannot change that one. We cannot dili ta pwede nga kana nga like for example kaning sa pagbayad og buwis about sa contribution sa company, you cannot change about that one. Pagpahamtong og kanang mga sanctions no sa mga trabahante or any legal matters which is actually vested coming from the law, so of course that can never be changed. Di na to pwede buot tag hatag og sweldo no na kanang gamay kay call center ka pero ang imong isweldo la 400 ra nya without availing the company what was this the mandated benefits coming from the labor law. So of course dili po siya maayo no kay if ever may balaan ta, especially if you are functioning having that numerous manpower, so na di possibility nga pwede mapasara na ang imuha nga negosyo. And much worse is of course bukdon tas balaod, no? Experiments, so concepts and principles of science are predefined and are always experimented with trial and error, no, to justify them and bring new inventions. Similarly, concepts in management are often tested to improve business practices. So sa from time to time nagi mga maabot nga mga polisiya no about sa tuang organization, and that policy is na akong usbon, it is actually adhering with the kanino dili lang sa labor code but also sa human rights, no, nga mga kuano about sa human rights. Now despite the fact that you're experimenting, but of course there must be an assurance that you stick, no, there must be an assurance that you stick with the legal process, or you stick with the legal process, because mo ginano naman tay gitawag og kanang gitawag na to human responsibility, or ato ang responsibility towards the community which speaks about the people who are working in an organization. It's not just an experiment nga duwa lang, but an experiment that would not do any harm with the people inside the organization. The experiment, the policy nga dapat set to it po that it is reasonable, no? Okay, what we're not playing here. We're actually mentioning about the world of work. So of course, it has to be taken seriously, no? Yeah. From time to time, usahay tangon siya nga policy because magkalambo, na usahay, magkalambo na ang atong sistema. So dapat ato po no, we have to adapt, and as much as possible if we can actually come up with another ways on solving that problem, or another ways on how to cope up the challenges that we encounter within the organization. Okay, so management as a profession. So as a profession is a form of occupation in which a person renders his or her services after acquiring expertise in a particular domain. So the professional is remunerated by the company for which he or she renders services. So of course, gitawag siya professional by means of kanang gitawag na to a form of occupation, pagpanarbaho. Now, with that profession that you have, of course, you are going to give all your best, no? The skills, the ability, the knowledge, the willingness to accept the challenge like this and like that, no? Also the expertise overall, no? And yeah, of course, there must be, no? There must be an equal compensations to be given coming from the company, which is termed remunerated or remuneration na ato ang sweldo bugti sa ato ang bugti sa atong skills, atong possession, the kind of responsibility that you have, the skills that you have, the talent that's additional, no, and as well as the knowledge, no, that's very important because that becomes katong gitawag na to, no, unsa gitawag siya, human assets, gitawag siya human assets, no. Next, the profession involves a contract between a company and the professional for a specific period, and the entry factors for the rule are limited by various factors. So, of course, there must be a contract, no? Ang ato ang as a profession, of course, it's very important to actually have it is much safer, no, on both sides to actually have contract. From the word itself, contract meaning the agreement between parties. Now, napo na siya specific set of period of time and also the conditions, no? The conditions at work, kung kanus what is your responsibility, asara limited ang mong responsibility, napo siya siyempre katong as mentioned a while ago, specific period, pila mo siya 6 months and 3 months. Now, other than that, what if sir, if dili mo contractual na o dili mi contractual na regularize na mo, of course that is the presumption already with a continuous process of contract. So still whatever will be, siyempre kung panlitan i-regularize na ka sa company class tagaan na pugag another contract ana to which you're going to sign on, no, sa imuha nga pirma. Unya that is paano lang na siya, no, kana ba nga with the presumption already nga kuha na siya, no, continuous process na siya. And yes, it's a continuous process and of course you have to follow kung unsay naa dito sa contract. That's the reason why kung musayan kita contract, we have to read the contract so that we will know if naay mga gipangbutang diha something like this and like that, no, nya ato siyang ma-address, no, as early as possible because the moment that you're going to sign the contract, of course you're not viable to change that one. Okay, the significant factors of questions which are familiar to management are, we have formal education and systems, no, like any profession, management contains formal level of education and building systems to reach desired positions. So to join the management of large corporations, students join and excel in degrees like BBA or Master of Business Administration. So kaning formal education and systems, this is very important also. Mabita na no nga the right person for the right position. So diri po sa formal education, set to it, the HR will also, before the HR will conduct recruitment and selection, they already have that kind of information, securing that one, no? Diya silang kilid. From time to time, they can actually revisit. Di katong nga kung balik ko, no, ang job analysis, no, so based on the type of person to be hired in a particular job, the skills that he have, unsa pa na siya, no, unsa may relationship sa iyang nagraduatean, no, is this something that is related to the kind of job, or dili lang jud related, but if he is this kind of profession that he have is actually designed or fitted or suited to the position. So ingana, no, the formal education system, and at the same time, of course, like for example, if you are longing or if you are aiming to a higher position, of course napo na siya mga specific nga mga basis, no, napo siya specific nga mga qualifications for you to become qualified for the position. Mga no nga kami nga mga college, we are actually encouraged to take master's degree because that is also to actually ensure, no, nga kami as much as possible, what is dili lang siya kana expected, bagitaw siya requirement, because a teacher must be knowledgeable enough, no, compared to their students as much as possible, no. At some point di ko kumingon po nga dapat yun nga sobraan jud kay namsa mga estudyante gyud nga bright kay no kanang mga himasa kayo. So that's the reason why, of course, what is the encouragement there is there must be a continuous learning. Mobasa sa may mga teacher, at the same time, as at the same time nga mobasa mi, we have to, you know, kani among expose among self if there are opportunities for learning, like mo appeal me, mo join me og kanang mga seminars that could also help a lot, no, nga para ma-empower ang among knowledge, no. Next, we have restricted entry. Entry to any management role is possible only for candidates with certain set entry criteria. So these criteria include educational qualifications, experience, efficiency, knowledge of specific software. So, kanino? Gitawag siya restricted entry class. I hope you will not be confused. Ang pasabot ani siya class, if you cannot actually meet, like for example, na ay hiring supervisory, if you cannot actually meet with the qualifications to the supervisory because lack of knowledge in terms of qualifications, nagbutang dito 3 years ang imuha, wala pa kay experience diya, no, wala pa ka kasulay, or else baron aritas qualifications, dapat na master's degree niyo pa kay master's degree, so do not feel bad about that one. That is simply means that there is a restricted entry being applied in order for them to actually get the correct person for the right position. No, that's very important. Kaya kanina magong pag-hire class, di mo siya duwa, no? The company are actually kanina invest sila money, no nya, if the moment that the person will be hired, no, diya sa organization niya, he cannot be able to functionalize well sa iya nga mga trabaho, so that could actually result to a loss of the company. In terms of funds class, makuan gino malustay gud ang funds nga, so that is anticipated already, that they have to actually choose the right one, okay, to avoid loss of profit or the loss of funds. Code of conduct and associations management, like any other profession, contains a code of conduct and ethics that every manager has to abide by. No, the process of various management associations is there, which regulates and certifies managers for specific skills. So diri no, muna a good manager, the code of conduct class, the code of conduct, which is matawag na to, no, murag agaw ra sila sa kaning gitawag dito company policy. And kaning code of conduct mo siya sumban na nato dira no kaning ko gitawag corporate ethics. Now, so every organization has like different ways, different for corporate ethics. Now, it's very important na nga inline po ta din sa code of conduct. Ani ang kanang policy nga gibuhat class dili na siya nga tagna or buhat lang sa mga manager and supervisor. No? They actually examine, akong balikon gi-examine diha, no, ang kaning atong labor law, and at the same time ang atong human rights, no, na gi-ensure diha, no, nga dapat wa di ma-violate ana, because of course na kaning organization class mo to mo sa D class naa man mo visit ani class tagsa a government agency who is actually tasked to examine if the organizations are labor law compliant or ni kuan ba sila, no, ni comply ba sila sa mandate sa labor law. So diha pinaagi apil na no, tanan ang policy, the mission, visions, the goals, ano i-revisit na diha tanan, no, the way they actually remunerate their mga trabahante, the way they actually provide the compensations and benefits that could also be contested, no, i-contest po na siya, no, so sa income sa usa ka organization. So for those dagko nga mga organizations like San Miguel Inana, so sila, no, they are actually expected to become labor compliant kay dagko na gud mo, no. So what's the use of gaining much profit without looking onto the welfare of kaning mga trabahante? So it's very important also. So dire mo na nga ang usa ka manager, he knows, no, how to actually itawag diya, no, he has to abide with law, management associations that also exercise kaning policy regulations, no, and at the same time also to kaning pag-execute nato ana no kanang balaod. So that's very important, pag-reinforce anang balaod within sa organization. kana no pwede pod nga mahitabo nga of course you have to be very well versed sa ato yung nabasahon ng code of conduct class kay from time to time lagi mangutana nga sir unsa may violation ako, so at least you can let that person actually you can actually explain that person no kung asa siya dapitan naka-violate nya kanang what are the grounds no if ever that kind of violation will continuously be done no diya sa ato ang sa iyang pagpanarbaho, so of course imo sa na siya pasabot sa iyaha. That's the process no mao bitaw na nga naatay ko ano natay tawag og written warning, verbal warning kay appeal diha no part diha is for us na to actually maintain a good relationship and a good communication. Because right after that one, so of course, naamang gitay ka ng panagtagbo nga for them to discuss that matter and also to help the kaning ano, trabahante nga nakabuhat og kanang kalapasan to realize no nga dili tumaoy ang gibuhat and to to do better sa iyahang sunod na iyang pagpanerbisyo. So I think that would be the end of our discussion today. Thank you so much, and I hope you have learned a lot. Don't forget to subscribe my video channel so that you will get updated no sa mga bago nga mga video nga akong ipang-upload. And of course, I encourage everybody to review and also to read with the PowerPoint that I presented to you class so that somehow inyong mabasa and ma-masterize ninyo and masayon ninyo ang pagsabot. So have a great day everyone and God bless you all.